We're leading today's show with World Cup news. So I'll remind you that Morning Kickaround's World Cup coverage is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC's Instagram for player and schedule announcements as OCFC battle this year for their first Great Lakes Division Championship. All right, to the news. Is the biggest World Cup ever being scaled down, Jason?
Well, yeah, I mean, we got a couple of things out of Massachusetts, and then we have this general concern I think people would be right to have about the way our federal government plans to involve itself in World Cup activities, specifically at stadiums on game day. I don't know. Let's start with what's going on in Massachusetts, Rob. First and foremost, I think the headline here is what's going on in Foxborough. So catch us up there.
Yes, the town of Foxborough, where Gillette Stadium is threatening to withhold an entertainment license from the FIFA World Cup if it does not receive the $7.7 million required for security funding during the tournament. As part of the original hosting agreement between the host cities and FIFA, host cities' overall responsibility for costs comprises safety, security, and protection, including all related and safety security measures for the individuals. However, some federal funding for host cities, but it doesn't cover it all, and that's leaving a $7.7 million gap, which the town of Foxborough is saying they should not be responsible for.
Yeah, this is part and parcel of the World Cup experience for local governments, right? It's why Chicago, Illinois is not hosting any World Cup games.
They were out of their lickety-split.
They were like, hey, let's look at this contract. You want us to pay for what? No, thank you. You want us to not collect any tax on what you make in our no, what are you talking about? And look, again, this is the hard part about being a soccer fan, especially in America. It's like you want to see the sport grow. You want to see a World Cup explode interest in this game that we are so passionate about. I've been waiting for this moment for how long is it since 94? 30 plus years now, 30 something years. I want this to be the biggest possible party and show for soccer it can be. And yet I also understand Chicago. I also understand Foxborough here in this situation with this $7.5 million shortfall in terms of security funding. So again, is this going to be a problem that keeps games from happening at Foxborough? Probably not. According to the Boston Business Journal, Bill Yugna, the chair of the Foxborough Select Board, said in a meeting last week that local officials had presumed the Kraft Group, the owners of the New England Patriots, the New England Revolutions, and Gillette Stadium itself would cover for the cost for security in the same way they do for Patriots games. Yet, because the owners have effectively sublet the venue to FIFA for the tournament, the Kraft Group is not currently fulfilling this function, leaving that funding gap. The town of Foxborough does not believe local taxpayers are obliged to fund a global sporting event. Why would they? Why? I mean, I understand there's that economic boom that is promised, and I know Massachusetts officials, including the governor and the mayor of Boston, we'll get to Boston in a second, have said, oh, this is going to be $1 billion of injection of economic growth or economic activity in the state of Massachusetts. But these towns like Foxborough, because, I mean, if this was Boston, maybe it'd be different. I don't know, Rob. But this is obviously not Boston. This is Foxborough. They just happen to be a place where Robert Kraft could build his stadium. Right? He replaced his old stadium, which was in Foxborough from the very old days of the Patriots. They shouldn't have to pay this. They shouldn't have to step up with money that for them is a big line item in their budget. The town has placed a March 17th deadline to receive its funding to grant the license. So they are saying, this is our town. You can't play games here unless we tell you you can, unless we give you this license. And we ain't giving you this license until somebody pays the security bill. And I don't blame them.
Yeah, that's a funky situation. Like you said, I feel like that's going to get resolved. The weight and just the commercial power and pressure that's coming somewhere along the way. Someone's going to write that check to fill that gap. Who it'll be, we'll see. But another note to this is when FanFest and the World Cup were first announced, talking about FanFest in the major host cities that would be having FanFest. And now we're talking about just 16 days, and in other cities, just select individual days.
Yeah, there has always kind of been this tradition of when the fan fests happen, they cover the entire tournament. I want to go out and watch the game on a big screen with a bunch of people from my community. I want to engage in the social activity that comes through this incredible sport. I'm going to go to the fan fest in whatever town is hosting the games. And yet again, because of costs, people like Michelle Wu of Boston, the mayor of Boston, are saying, wait a second, we probably can't do this. Like, we want to, and this is a trade-off here. What Boston is saying is we could do a 39-day fan fest or whatever it would be for the entire tournament, but we would have to charge in order to make this work from a budget perspective. Like, okay, should we look at the school system in the face and said, we can't fund you because we had to pay for a fan fest for FIFA to come and have World Cup games 45 minutes down the road in Foxborough, right? Let's remember that part too. I just don't, again, the fact that FIFA has continued to push the envelope on what it extracts from host countries, instead of looking at this as an opportunity to lift up those host countries. And really, again, FIFA is not short on cash, right? And FIFA will always say, well, we have to build the game everywhere else. Well, what about, I mean, you can't suck money out of Boston or Foxborough or any of these other places and act like that's not going to be a problem with the people that live there. And even the people that are soccer fans are still going to look at this and go, this isn't a good deal for us.
Additional note there, news this week too that came out in The Athletic. People were wondering what will the security and the ICE presence be in these cities. And in this article that came out in The Athletic, written by Colin Miller, came out actually just this morning. Todd Lyons, ICE's acting director, says ICE will be playing a key role in the security and operations at these host cities.
Yeah, look, I caught this yesterday when he said it in front of Congress, in front of this panel, the House of Representatives, and again, Democrat Nellie Pooh, who represents Northern New Jersey and the area of the Meadowlands and MetLife Stadium, said, you know, what's going on here with ICE? We don't really want, I mean, at the end, obviously the implication was we really don't want ICE involved in game day activities around the World Cup, which is obviously going to draw a lot of people either from outside the country or people who maybe want to go to games who would be risking deportation under the current administration if they went to these games. Now, Colin Miller in his piece does say ICE, which is split into two sectors, commonly provides intelligence and security at international sporting events. But what Todd Lyons is not saying, like, that may be a thing that's happened before, even before this current push to deport people and round people up. And I'm not going to get into some of the other things happening right now that make my blood run cold about what's going on around this administration.
Ongoing atrocities.
But the thing about this is that, of course, those things happening bring this perception, this belief on the part of people who might be going to the games that that's the kind of role that ICE is going to play at the World Cup, right? If you remember the threats that were made about the Super Bowl because Bad Bunny was named as the halftime entertainment and certain people in the administration didn't like that. And then they said, well, we're going to go and flood Santa Clara and Levi Stadium. Ultimately, nothing happened there. It proved to be an empty threat. And I'm glad that's the case. But we can't, people who may be considering going out to games and supporting their nation, their country, their home country, if they live here and maybe aren't 100% sure. And even those, by the way, who do have paperwork, who do have a reason to be here, are getting rounded up. I'm just going to make this personal for a second. My wife is Puerto Rican. She was born a U.S. citizen. By the way, they could take that away tomorrow if they wanted to, because birthright citizenship doesn't apply to Puerto Rico. But she is a citizen now. She works for the federal government, and she still says, I need to take my passport with me when I go out. And
that's her own job.
And it's not crazy that she's thinking that. But when she travels, she works for the federal government. She travels on behalf of the federal government, and she thinks, I got to take my passport domestically, not for international travel, domestically, because I have to be careful about because of how I sound when I talk, right? So now we're talking about a World Cup that's going to attract thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people who, if they speak English, are going to speak it with an accent. And here is Todd Lyons saying, yeah, we're going to have ICE is going to be there. ICE is dedicated to ensuring everyone who visits the facilities will have a safe and secure event. Your idea of safe and secure is different than mine, Todd.
Yeah, it sure is. And then on top of that, outside of like the immediate threats and dangers, people want surety with investments. So the amount of money that's being talked about for buying a ticket and traveling is a huge investment. And you want a little bit of guarantee, let alone like, I mean, you'd be disappointed if like the tickets fell through and you spent a lot of money on it. When you're thinking about there's actual cause for my personal safety, and then you're weighing that with an outlay of thousands of dollars, it could certainly, as per the chat is saying, that could definitely have a chilling effect on the attendance for World Cup 2026.
And let's just for a second acknowledge the insanity that is Gianni Infantino, who, by the way, was spotted at Gillette Stadium when the Patriots were playing in the NFL playoffs, and I believe was at the Super Bowl with Robert Kraft, which I suggested was going to be a thing because I knew they were buddies. So Gianni Infantino, he was asked, or there was a request for comment from FIFA about this Foxborough story, and FIFA did not respond to a question of whether or not Infantino spoke about this issue with Robert Kraft when he was at the Super Bowl. The president of FIFA is cozying up to the people who are involved in exactly what's going on here. Now, Robert Kraft is not part of the government, but he certainly is somebody who has some involvement in everything that's going on. But Gianni Infantino has also cozied up to the administration, and here they are potentially throwing cold water over the biggest sporting event on the planet. And what is he doing? What is Gianni Infantino doing?
Drinking champagne. When they asked him about it, he had to look up from his shrimp cocktail.
He's still wiping the brown stuff off his nose, is what he's doing.
Well, we're just a couple months away from this, and we will continue covering the lead into World Cup 2026. And Oakland County FC is bringing the World's Game to our local neighborhood, and our World Cup coverage is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Visit Oakland County FC on Instagram for player and schedule announcements.